With this little Yamaha jog build drawing to an end, a quick recap of what we've done so far. First and foremost, this stock CE50 has undergone a Japanese spec 27V upgrade. It's received a new set of body panels with fresh paint. It's received a new set of decals or stickers, whichever you may prefer to call them. We have a leather trim seat. Now that is luxury. It's got a new set of tires and freshly painted rims, but there's one thing that is letting this little jog down, and that is this here rusty old exhaust. It's just a blight on an otherwise unblemished appearance. Today we're going to upgrade. We're going to do a few upgrades on this little Yamaha jog. Right here, right down there, we've got a 2-stroke exhaust and a CP 19mm carburetor. Today we're going to pull off the exhaust, we're going to swap that exhaust, we're going to chuck on that carburetor, we're going to turn up the dial and send this little build into something different. It was at this moment where things didn't quite go to plan. Stick around because that exhaust is junk. Everything's junk. It's all no good. So we have a few upgrades on order. Down here on the table beneath me, we've got a 2-stroke exhaust built specially for this little Yamaha jog. I've got no idea what brand it is or who made it, but it was probably made by some guy in a shed somewhere and promises to deliver a few more horsepowers. Now, to complement that, we have this here Pellini CP 19mm carburetor. And to accompany that, we have this airbox air filter adapter. So hopefully the stock airbox will bolt to the carburetor and everything will just be good. Now, with all that extra squeezing of the horsepower source, hopefully we see an improvement in this little Yamaha jog. Let's get into it. First off, let's remove this exhaust. Exhaust is off and here it is in my little hands. Now, as you can see, it doesn't appear to be in all that bad a shape, but when you roll him over, there's a previous cut that looks like someone may have done some sort of repair on it, and it has some noise inside. So it was either import a new one of these or a good condition second-hand one at a pretty big rate, or just go buy the aftermarket one, and at that point that's my decision. So this is the old and here is the new. Very nice. Gonna go on and do its job and do it very, very well. So without further ado, let's get to mounting this bad boy. It's actually quite a fair bit smaller than the 2-stroke exhaust that I fitted on other bikes. So let's see what happens. Now that we've got the exhaust on, I guess there's only one thing left to do, and that would be pull this little bike off the stand and listen to that 2-stroke symphony. So, pull the bike off, we'll start it up, hopefully it doesn't leak, hopefully it sounds good, and then we can crack on with the carburetor. Let's see how it goes. Can't really go too far because it's not registered. It gets up and goes alright. Not bad at all. First run, stop carb, no jetting. Getting fast now. Alright. We'll just take it up here on the flat road. Not bad at all. Just got to be careful, I've got no mirrors on it. That goes better than I expected. Alright, let's wheel it in. Let's put a carby on it and see what results we get there. Test ride has now been completed, and it was just out the front of my house because doing so could risk severe penalty from the New South Wales Police Force. That penalty may and will include loss of license, a fine, possible castration, and even the death penalty. So, in riding just out the front of my house, we recorded a top speed of 49 kilometers an hour. Not bad. But now, we're going to put the Pellini CP carburetor in it. CP19. Now, it is a little big, but that's what I had spare, so that's what we're going to use. Consulting with the Pellini CP carburetor website says I should be using a 40 idle jet and an 84 main jet. So we'll disassemble this carburetor, we'll ram those jets up its ass, and then we'll plug the carburetor into the bike and see what that brings us. Okay guys, here we have the two carburetors in comparison. The one right here is the original 12.5mm, I believe, with a auto choke, versus the Pellini CP19 with a manual choke. Now, apart from the bell mouth sizes, you can see this one is obviously much larger, but the real difference in carburetor size is inside around where the slide is. This one being 19mm across versus approximately 12.5mm. And here is the back side of the carburetors. You can see obviously the Pellini one is also bigger. Now you might think that this being a CP19, this hole here would be 19mm, but as I'm about to demonstrate, that is clearly not the case. That's at, let's call that 21mm. Now if we compare that to the stock carburetor, which we believe is 12.5, you can see that is about 19. So that is where people get confused the most. They measure this area and think that is correct, where the real difference is deep within the carburetor, right down there in around the slide. Alright, from here it's time to test fit it. Now if everything goes well, this will work as I intend. So to do that, we have this carburetor adapter which will go on the front of the carburetor like so. And if all goes to plan, that will allow the stock airbox to fit in its stock location. So let's test fit it. Woo-hoo-hoo. Look at that. Even the holes line up. Look at that. I must have done something right because the holes are lining up. And voila. Beautiful! With such unexpected success in mounting the airbox in its original location, something that I didn't think would be achievable, we now have to give the airbox a little bit more air to breathe. Now, this hole here, that's basically all the air that can be sucked through the engine through that little hole. So I notice it has this little rivet on top, so we will remove the rivet. And we should be able to get this guy off. Getting this guy off should allow us maybe to remove the snorkel like so. And there we have a much bigger way to suck air into the motor. We'll put this guy back on. I think that might do the job. But before we do that, we'll clean it all up, make sure there's no dust in there, and crack on. We have run into a few little problems with this here Pelican jog. Try as I might, it no longer started. Now we put the carburetor in, we were doing the tuning on the carburetor, and then all of a sudden, no spark. No spark, no fart, no fun. So it could have only have been one of two things. I checked all the earths, I checked all that normal stuff, and I noticed the coil had a crack on it. Now the crack is right here, a little zoom in action. So I figured no spark, coil, and just to be safe, I went and got myself a new CDI. Well, both of these are second hand. So second hand coil, second hand CDI. And we've got some success. The little bike now runs. So back with the tuning and back where we left off last episode. A demonstration, if you will. Ignition on. And so there you go. Now that the bike's running again, I won't say sweet because I just don't know, but it is running, it is test rideable, so let's get back to that. And there you go.
One eternity later.
That's a video of the bike running. You see it starts pretty good, no problems there, but it bogs when we blip the throttle. But it doesn't always bog when we blip the throttle. Sometimes it absolutely rips. The problem is it's inconsistent. It's consistently inconsistent, and I can't pick out what's wrong with it. I have a couple of suspicions. Now, just to recap what we've got a stock 50cc CE50 Yamaha. We have a CP 19mm carburetor. I think that's probably where the main issue lies. I just think the carburetor's a little bit too big. I'm thinking a 15mm is probably where it needs to be, maybe a 17.5mm. Now, I've gone through every size jet, from a 32 pilot jet all the way up to a 38 pilot jet. I've moved the clip position up, down, and everywhere in between on every single one of those pilot jets. Still runs exactly the same. Sometimes rips, sometimes bogs. I've gone through every single main jet from an 80 to a 92. Sometimes rips, sometimes bog. And I've done every single main jet with every single pilot jet with every single clip position, and I still have the same result. Sometimes rips, sometimes bogs. The thing is, I can't get it to move. I can get about 5 feet before the bike dies. What do you guys reckon the issue is? I'm leaning towards the carburetor size. Now, I do have a couple of other issues. This exhaust that we've fitted to the bike, it looks wonderful, everything looks sweet, but everything isn't as it seems. The exhaust doesn't fit, the flange to the cylinder head, it's no good, and the exhaust actually impacts the petcock on compression. So that's not good either. Unfortunately, this exhaust is no good and we can no longer use it. That sucks, because that exhaust wasn't cheap. The other issue I've done is I've pressure tested the motor and it's passed 7 psi for 10 minutes. I've vacuum tested the motor and it's passed 7 psi for 10 minutes. Only one thing left to do, and that was a compression test, and sadly it failed, and it failed dismally. The little bike only managed 98 psi. Not good enough. So I think I got a combination of too big a carburetor, compression's too low, and it's just giving me not enough consistency, and the bike's just struggling. So what's that mean for this little Yamaha 27V Pelican jog? Sadly, that's the end. We're done with it. We are finished, we are kaput. It will cease to exist in its current form, because that means only one thing: we need to fix it, we need to build it, we need to make it better, and that's good for you guys. So, okay, here are our options to rebuild this little motor. We can rebuild it 100% stock. That's rehone the cylinder, get another piston, another set of rings, and we will call it a day. Stock carburetor, that's done. Option 2, we can get an aluminium cylinder, standard bore, standard cylinder. It's just aluminium, a slight upgrade. We can go for a 15mm CP carburetor. Not a bad idea, this one. Call it a day. Option 3, we can go a stage 6 street race 50cc cylinder. Not a bad option as well. Call it a day. Option 4, we can go a stage street Mark II Pro 50cc. Call it a day. Option 5, we can go a stage 6 street race 70cc. Probably a bit too big for this. Call it a day. Or I'll just throw it out there for shits and giggles. Version 6, a stage 6 Mark II Pro 70cc build, which makes about 13 horsepower, and call it a day, which again I think is way too much. So there's 6 options for you. Which option do you want to see? Leave a comment in the box down below, let me know, and I might just go ahead and do it. Till then guys, this one's back in storage for now, waiting for that day to come, and I'll see you on the next video.